20 minutes, Pamela. The courthouse clerk disappeared back through the doors, and I looked at my phone again. 35 invitations. 35 relatives who had promised they knew where to be. Not one of them was there. Maybe they're running late, Ethan said quietly beside me. Then my phone buzzed. A photo appeared in our family group chat. My sister Melissa stood behind a massive birthday cake, grinning at the camera. My mother had one arm around her. My father was holding a champagne glass. Behind them were my aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandparents. Everyone I was waiting for was already somewhere else. At my sister's birthday party. I stared at the screen until Ethan gently lowered my hand. Pamela. I swallowed. They actually chose her party. What hurt most was that this wasn't some scheduling accident. I had booked my wedding 6 months earlier. Melissa announced her 27th birthday party afterward, and somehow, my mother had turned my wedding into the inconvenience. Weeks earlier, Mom had called me. Melissa already paid deposits on the venue, she'd said. Just move the courthouse ceremony. Ethan's parents are traveling in. Everything is arranged. Mom sighed like I was deliberately making her life difficult. Then people will have to decide where they want to be. I thought she meant everyone would make their own choice. I didn't know she had already started making it for them. Mom called relatives privately, telling them I was being stubborn and creating unnecessary competition with Melissa. I had spent my whole life being the daughter who adjusted, the one who stayed quiet because Melissa needed more attention, more help, more understanding. But I wouldn't move my wedding. And apparently, that was enough to make me disposable. The courthouse doors opened again. Mrs. Carter, we're ready. I glanced toward the parking lot one last time. Empty. Inside, only Ethan's parents, Margaret and James Hale, waited for us. James noticed me staring toward the entrance. He stood, walked over, and offered me his arm without saying anything. I took it. And that was how I walked into my wedding, with my future father-in-law beside me, while my own father celebrated my sister's birthday across town. Ethan and I got married. My family never came. That evening, my mother finally texted. Hope everything went well. Melissa had an amazing night. No apology. I stopped replying. 4 weeks passed. Then one morning, Ethan called me over to the television. His cybersecurity company had gone public. The financial report estimated the value of his ownership stake at roughly *40, 2 million **. Before I could fully process the number, my phone started vibrating. Mom. I declined it. She called again. Then again. 6 calls in 10 minutes. The woman who couldn't spare 1 hour for my wedding suddenly couldn't stop trying to reach me. And I was about to find out exactly why. My phone buzzed a 7th time. This time, it wasn't a call. Mom, please answer. We need to talk about the family. I stared at those words. Not I'm sorry. Not can we talk about your wedding. Not even how are you. The family. Ethan looked over from the kitchen. You don't have to answer. I know. But some stubborn part of me still wanted to believe the last 4 weeks had finally made Mom understand what she'd done. So when she called again, I answered. Pamela, her voice was unusually warm. Finally, how are you? How's married life? Fine. That's good. I've been thinking a lot this past month. My grip loosened slightly around the phone. Maybe this was it. Then she said, your father and I saw Ethan on the financial news this morning. There it was. I looked across the room at Ethan. Mom continued, they said something about $42 million. Is that accurate? That's what you called about. I'm asking a simple question. Ethan's finances aren't something I'm discussing. Her tone changed immediately. Pamela, don't start acting like we're strangers. We're your family. After everything we've done for you. I actually laughed once. For 3 years, I had quietly helped pay portions of my parents' property taxes. When their house needed emergency repairs twice, I helped cover them. Melissa had borrowed money from me repeatedly. I never embarrassed any of them by announcing it to relatives. Mom, answer one question. She went silent. Did you call because you regret missing my wedding, or because you saw a number on television? Pamela, those are two completely different. No, they're really not. I heard movement on her end. Then Dad's voice replaced hers. We're under some financial pressure right now, he said. And frankly, with the position you and Ethan are suddenly in, helping us would be nothing to you. I stared at the wall. 4 weeks ago, showing up for me had apparently been too much. Now helping them was supposed to be nothing. I need time, I said. Pamela. I ended the call. Then I opened my banking app. For the first time, I searched backward through years of transfers and started adding everything. Taxes. Repairs. Money to Melissa. More transfers. The total kept climbing. I sat there staring at the screen, stunned by how much I had given to people who had left 35 empty seats on my wedding day. Then another notification appeared. Melissa sent you a file. I opened the message. There was no hello. No congratulations. No apology. Just a spreadsheet. Its title was Family Needs. I opened Melissa's spreadsheet, expecting maybe 2 or 3 expenses. Instead, I kept scrolling. Mom and Dad, mortgage balance. Melissa, car loan. Cousin, business debt. Then came renovation estimates and other expenses that had absolutely nothing to do with me. The total ran into hundreds of thousands of dollars. But one column made my stomach tighten. Pam plus Ethan. Someone had already decided which expenses we were supposed to cover. I called Melissa. What is this? She sounded completely calm. It's just something Mom wanted us to put together before everybody talks. Everybody. Before she could answer, my phone lit up with an incoming family video call. Mom had added Ethan and me. When we joined, faces filled the screen, many of the exact same relatives I had waited for outside the courthouse. Mom smiled as though she were chairing a normal family meeting. Good. Now that everyone's here, we can have a mature family planning discussion. One of my uncles leaned toward his camera. Pamela, 42 million changes things. Nobody is asking you to give everything away, but obviously you can contribute more now. Melissa nodded. And you shouldn't punish everybody because of one scheduling conflict. One scheduling conflict. I looked across the screen. Okay, let's talk about that. Mom's expression tightened. I asked, how many people on this call attended my wedding? Nobody spoke. Come on, 35 relatives were invited. How many came? Silence. Fine, how many of you went to Melissa's birthday? Eyes dropped. Someone muted their microphone. Then Aunt Carol finally spoke. Pamela, your mother told us you wanted the courthouse ceremony tiny. I froze. What? She said you basically wanted it private, that you weren't bothered about relatives attending. Mom immediately cut in. That is not exactly what I said. Aunt Carol frowned. Deanne, you told me Pamela didn't really want family there. Another cousin nodded slowly. I was told the same thing. I stared at my mother. Suddenly, 35 empty places made sense. She hadn't merely chosen Melissa's birthday over my wedding. She had made sure other people did too. You told them I didn't want them there. Mom raised her hands. I was trying to manage a difficult situation. No, you created one. The call erupted. Questions, excuses, relatives talking over one another. I didn't argue. I looked directly into the camera. Ethan's finances will not be discussed by this family again. Then I ended the call. 3 minutes later, Dad sent me a private message. I opened it. After everything we sacrificed raising you, you owe this family more than a wedding grudge. Dad's message changed something in me. I stopped trying to make them understand. Instead, I started collecting evidence. I pulled 3 years of bank statements, transfer confirmations, property tax payments, and invoices from the 2 emergency repairs I'd helped cover on my parents' house. Then I added the money Melissa had borrowed. Ethan sat beside me as I organized everything. "They keep saying you owe them," he said. I turned the laptop toward him. The numbers showed the opposite. The daughter they accused of abandoning the family had quietly been helping support it. Then Ethan pointed to the financial article, still open on another tab. "And they don't understand this number either. The asterisk $42 million asterisk wasn't cash sitting in our checking account. It was the approximate market value of Ethan's shares after his cybersecurity company went public. Selling large amounts immediately could involve restrictions, taxes, and other financial consequences. More importantly, those shares belonged to Ethan. They weren't a family inheritance." My phone buzzed. A cousin messaged me. "Your mom specifically told us you wanted the courthouse ceremony basically private. I'm sorry. I should have asked you myself." Then another relative contacted me with almost the exact same story. That was when the entire pattern became impossible to ignore. Mom had pushed everyone toward Melissa's birthday, watched me get married without my family, never corrected the lie afterward, and only reached out after Ethan's IPO made headlines. So I made 2 decisions. First, I canceled the automatic monthly payment I had been sending toward my parents' expenses. Then I texted Melissa. "There will be no more loans. Please plan accordingly." Her reply came almost immediately. "Seriously?" I didn't answer. The next message came from Mom. She was organizing a family dinner for Sunday. "We need to resolve this face-to-face. Everyone will be there." I looked at Ethan. "I'm going." Sunday evening, we walked into my parents' house carrying a folder filled with copies of every financial record I'd collected. The same relatives from the video call were waiting around the dining table. Mom barely let us sit down. "So," she began, "have you and Ethan decided what you can do for the family?" I placed the folder in the center of the table. Mom reached toward it. I put my hand over the cover. "Before anybody asks me for another dollar, everyone here is going to see who has actually been supporting whom." I opened the folder and started passing copies around the table. Nobody spoke at first. There were the property tax payments I had made for Mom and Dad, the invoices from both emergency, repairs on their house, transfers to Melissa, more transfers, dates, amounts, receipts, 3 years of quiet financial help laid out in black and white. Dad flipped through his pages. Melissa stopped looking at me. Mom finally said, "Why are you showing everyone our private business?" "Because you made my finances everyone's business the moment you circulated a spreadsheet deciding how Ethan and I should spend our money." I looked around the table. "And there's something else all of you need to understand. Ethan does not have $42 million sitting in a bank account." Ethan remained beside me while I explained. His company had gone public 4 weeks after our wedding. Based on the market price following the IPO, his ownership stake was valued at roughly $42 million on paper asterisk. That didn't make it cash waiting to be distributed. There were restrictions, taxes, and financial consequences involved in selling shares. But the simplest fact was the most important. "It's Ethan's equity," I said. "It is not a Carter family inheritance." Mom folded her arms. "So this is really about punishing us for the wedding?" "No, but since you mentioned the wedding." I pulled out the final pages. My original invitation messages. The date. The confirmations. And Mom's texts from after Melissa scheduled her birthday party. "Just move the courthouse ceremony." Then, People will have to decide where they want to be. Aunt Carol stared at the screenshots. Diane, you told me Pamela wanted it basically private. Another relative looked at Mom. You told me she didn't care if we came. Mom's face tightened. I was trying to keep people from feeling caught between two events. I looked straight at her. You solved that by making sure everybody chose Melissa. Nobody defended her. Dad cleared his throat. Fine, mistakes were made, but that doesn't change the fact that this family has real financial needs. That was when Ethan finally spoke. My parents traveled to Pamela's wedding without knowing whether my company would ever successfully go public. Dad looked at him. Ethan continued calmly. They didn't show up because they thought Pamela might become wealthy. They showed up because she was becoming their family. The room went completely quiet. I thought about James offering me his arm outside that courthouse. Margaret sitting behind us. 35 invitations. 35 missing relatives. And then 6 phone calls in 10 minutes when my parents saw $42 million on television. I closed the folder. So here's what happens now. Mom looked at me. The monthly support ends. Her expression changed instantly. Pamela, I already canceled it. Dad sat forward. You can't make a decision like that because you're angry. I just did. I turned toward Melissa. The money you already borrowed stays under the terms we agreed on, but there will be no more loans. Her mouth fell open. What am I supposed to do about my car? Manage it. Then I addressed everyone. Ethan and I will not pay anyone's mortgage, car loan, renovations, business debt, vacation, or anything else from that family needs spreadsheet. Mom shook her head. So you're choosing money over family? No, I'm refusing to use money to buy a place in one. That ended the argument. There were no lawsuits, no dramatic revenge. Nobody lost a house overnight. What disappeared was something my family had assumed would always be available. Access to me and my money without accountability. In the weeks afterward, several relatives apologized. Some admitted they should have contacted me directly instead of believing Mom. I accepted the apologies that came with changed behavior, but I didn't pretend one conversation erased everything. Mom's influence changed too. Relatives stopped automatically accepting her version of events. They called me directly. Without my monthly help, my parents had to restructure their own expenses. Melissa had to manage her debts without treating me like an emergency fund. My relationship with Mom and Dad remained distant. For once, I stopped trying to fix that distance by giving more. Months later, Ethan and I held a small anniversary dinner. Margaret and James were there. A few relatives who had genuinely rebuilt trust were there too. I looked around that table and realized something I had been terrified to learn. Setting boundaries hadn't cost me my family. The wedding had already shown me who was willing to leave. The aftermath showed me who was willing to come back for the right reasons. I kept our finances private after that. I stopped paying for peace, approval, and inclusion. And when Mom occasionally tried to tell me that family should share wealth, I no longer argued. I didn't need her agreement anymore. My parents taught me exactly what I meant to them when they chose a birthday party over my wedding. And 4 weeks later, $42 million taught me why I should never pay anyone to choose me.